Hey y'all, it's your girl Miss Melanated, and welcome to Go About Your Business podcast, where we discuss money, finance, and financial growth. Y'all already know it's your girl, and we're here with Chef
Eric Adjepong. What's going on?
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a minute. We've been trying to get this together, and it's crazy because we see each other almost every week.
Exactly.
But y'all, yeah, we're here.
We got some exclusives for y'all. We've been trying to get this episode together for a minute, but we're here, Chef.
We're here at the restaurant. Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna dive in. Let's start with the question: who is Eric Adjepong?
Oh wow. Okay. Just like that. I am a spiritual-led Christ follower from Ghana via the Bronx. I am a chef, a father, son, all that jazz. But I think ultimately, someone who creates. I like to create. I like to bring things from my mind into fruition, and we're sitting in one of those things right now.
Period. Okay, so diving into that, because that was going to be my next follow-up question. You said you are from Ghana and from the Bronx. So let us know. Were you originally born in Ghana? Were you born in the Bronx? How was you growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up, born and raised in New York, grew up in the Bronx and in Ghana as well. So I lived in Ghana as a really young child, from like 2 to 6, 2 to 5. And then I came back to the States and just grew up the rest of the time, mostly in New York. But I've traveled quite a bit, now into my adulthood. Places I lived Rhode Island, upstate New York. I lived in London for a little bit studying there. Kentucky randomly. So yeah, I've been a little bit everywhere, but now in Washington, D.C.
Okay. So can I ask you, like you just said, you grew up in Ghana, you came to the U.S. A lot of people, whether you're from like Latin America, Africa, always transition or have that common story of transitioning from two different countries. How was it for you now transitioning as a child from Ghana and then coming to a place like New York?
I think it was young enough. I was young enough where it's funny you said it because I was talking to my older cousin about this when I first came back from Ghana. All I was speaking was Tree, the language there. And, I didn't use a lick of English, but then I stayed in the States for like 20-something years. So, I assimilated back into the American New York culture or whatever. So I definitely feel a lot of I remember a lot of those like core memories being in Ghana. And then lived in Ghana a little bit after that as well for a touch. So I feel at home in both places,
Okay.
Whether I'm in the States or whether I'm in Ghana.
I love that. So now as you grew up, you got into becoming a chef. Let me ask you, why chef?
Ooh, okay. I think I knew at a really young age that I wanted to be in the food space, in the culinary space. Young, 7, 8, 9 years old, was definitely sort of like enamored by cooking shows. And I come from a family of really good cooks as well. So just watching my mom and my uncle and my aunt like cook. And then I felt like it was a superpower they had where they would make something and then everybody comes to the table. And I always thought that was cool. And then taking it to the next level, watching, chefs on television create these amazing sort of elaborate dishes and meals with flair and personality and storytelling behind it. I always thought that was just fascinating. And I fell in love that way. And I'm so blessed because I never let it go. I think I locked in at a really young age knowing that I wanted to do this and be a chef. And God has been faithful to me to allow me to see it through.
I love that because as I grew up, I feel like that was one of my superpowers too.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom cooks all the time. You know how like African parents, you have to get them to actually stop, especially moms, like stop cooking.
Of course.
Like it's like to the point where like everybody's like, all right, enough. Mm-hmm. Like you have made enough. But I started to cook at like 9. Mm-hmm. When somebody probably call you from like the kitchen. Like I used to watch Disney Channel and my mom used to be like, okay, come peel garlic. I used to be irritated like, I'm watching my TV shows. Why do you have me coming to come peel garlic?
Right.
But then it was like, as I grew older, I realized like, hey, I'm ahead of the curve. I know how to
Yes.
I know how to cook while people still struggling to make a whole meal. But like, it was easy because it started to become like a safe space.
True. Yeah.
You know, like it started to become a safe space, and I appreciate that because literally what you're doing in this space is literally like that thing that everybody imagined in their mind, especially for me. Like I imagine this so much often. Like I'm gonna make an Ivorian restaurant, and people are gonna taste fufu, and I'm gonna figure out how to get it done and everything. Because you know our dishes are very elaborate, no matter where you are in Africa. It takes time.
For sure. So
to actually bring it into like an experience where people can eat it, not fall asleep after they eat it. Because
that's what happens.
Yeah, because it's heavy. But also get a taste and like the idea.
Yeah.
So like, let me ask you this. How did you know like that you wanted to actually progress this into a career and turn it into a platform?
I think I was always interested in it. I didn't know like the steps, but up until the time I went into high school, I went to this school upstate New York, and they had a program that I think really opened my eyes, and I can say definitively changed my life to really like making this a concrete career for me. Was this program called BOCES? I forget the acronym, but essentially it was a trade school. So we had 9 periods in high school. 4 or 5 of those periods in the beginning of the day was spent outside the high school.
Oh.
So we would go to a vocational school, and that vocational school had trades like cosmetology, culinary arts, mechanic, like things to essentially use your hands, right? And have that sort of tactile experience with work. And I experienced a professional kitchen for the first time in high school. I was maybe 15, 16, 17. And I love the sort of structure of the kitchen. I love the brigade system. I love the chain of command. I love how I was responsible for my own station.
Okay.
And, you know, I since like then, you know, you had the conversation with your guidance counselor when you're about to, you know, graduate high school, like, what are you about to do? And I'm like, all right, yeah, doing this BOCES program, I think I'm really like locked in. This is like something I want to explore. And then I went to culinary school, college, and then from there, I just never looked back.
Okay. So now after you graduated from college, how did you know, all right, I decided to take this to a career, my passion to a career. How am I going to turn this into a platform?
I never thought about it as a platform. I just thought about it as something cool to do. Like, I just, you know, I always just was having fun, you know, again, taking stuff from my mind and flavors that I thought would work well together in my head, and then, you know, turning it into something like tangible. So the platform, I don't think really happened. I finished college. I went back to New York, and then I moved to England to do my master's out there. And then when I came back, I think I realized like, okay, I can start sharing some of the dishes that I'm making, you know, on Instagram and Twitter and social media. And I think that's when the ball started rolling, when I started cooking, not necessarily online, but just sort of documenting the stuff that I was making. And from there, like, people started catching on, and you know, I started different businesses and stuff like that. And it all sort of like snowballed its way into being on television, in, you know, cooking in a competition sense. And that's really, I think, this maybe like 2015, 16, 17. And that's when it really started like bubbling. Yeah.
Okay, so from that cooking show, you were the finalist on Top Chef Kentucky, right?
I was. Yeah.
Top Chef Kentucky. So how did that increase in like public profiling help your business opportunities, as well as like your financial opportunities?
Totally. So it's a hard show, objectively. I always say Top Chef it's the best culinary competition, but I also think it's one of the best competition shows, period. Like, it wins Emmys for a reason. It's on the map. You know, some of the chefs that have been on it have done amazing things with their career and you know, both on the culinary side and business side and stuff like that. I was a huge fan of the show early on, and you know, when I was an undergrad, and I was like, man, if I'm ever good enough to be on the show, I want to be able to showcase West African cuisine. I've started watching the show like season 4, and I was like you mentioned, season 16. And between then and you know the time I got on, I never saw a chef actually cook like predominantly West African food or African food. You know, there was dishes here and there. Chef Carla Hall, did some really cool things. Kwame Onwuachi did some cool things, but to really focus, you know, you had chefs that were primarily focused on like Italian and French cuisine, the classics, you know, Asian cuisine, and thereafter. But there wasn't anyone highlighting food from the continent of Africa. So I was like, you know, if I ever get a chance to do it, that's what I want to do. And I stuck to my guns. And it brought me all the way up to the finale, the last episode of, you know, my season. And I think from there, it was so many things happened after. It's a nationally televised show.
Yeah.
It's a global televised show. And I think a lot of people never heard of things like fufu or jollof or whatever the case is. And I'm teaching the judges and cooking for the judges, you know, at the same time. And then from there, so many things happened. You know, I was eliminated the last challenge, placing 3rd, and I wasn't able to cook my entire finale meal because of that. So thereafter, so many people reached out to me to actually go ahead and cook that meal. One included was Tom Colicchio, the head chef, the head judge of the show Top Chef. And I took over his restaurant Craft in New York City. I did lunch service and dinner service. And, you know, there's always stepping stones, but I definitely imagine that being a very big stepping stone for me.
They was trying to eat some African food.
That's
what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. That was what it really was.
Yeah.
Like, okay, hold on.
Let's do it. But that dinner got my name in the New York Times, and it's crazy how the Lord works, because the writer of the article in the New York Times actually 7 years later has become my co-author for my book, Gone Into the World.
Oh, wow.
You know, I met her there, and then we stayed connected, and then she helped me write this book. I started doing this dinner for different countries, and different states here in America, then also going to different countries, Barbados, Bermuda specifically, Jamaica, and then that sort of really started bubbling, and then things just kept happening after that. Yeah,
I love that.
crazy.
I feel like everything is like when you hit that rock. You know, like the repeated hit and that final crack.
That's it.
Yeah, that final crack where you know, okay, this is the snowball effect of all the effort.
100%. I think you might have heard me say this before, like, you know, during pre-shift about chopping wood, you know, like there's a big tree in the middle of the woods, and, you know, you have an axe right next to it, and you pick it up every single day, and you hit the tree as hard as you can, and you put the axe down. And you come back the next day and do it again and again and again and again. And eventually that tree's going to fall down, you know, and it's going to make a big sound when it does. And I think, to your point, like hitting the rock, just being persistent, that is something, you know, I feel like a lot of younger people, unfortunately, don't have the patience for. It's not an overnight thing. You know?
I'm young.
I mean, true, but not a lot of people, you know, not a lot. I think a lot of folks, like, they see success and see the aftermath of a lot of folks' success, typically on social media or, you know, wherever, and they think that it's an instant sort of thing where you don't realize how much hours and work and dedication
you put
people
into it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially what they say in atomic habits, you get 1% better every day.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's just what you just said, that consistency of knowing, like, I gotta show up for me, and then how does that look into the world?
Correct.
Now? Yeah. Like, just try to figure out how to navigate that space. But even talking about Top Chef, you said in your mind you knew, okay, I'm coming up and I'm doing Ghana to the world. I'm doing Ghana to the world. How did you even create dishes to actually consolidate time? Because like I stated, African food takes a very long time to make. Because a lot of people make everything from scratch. So how did you take that time and be like, okay, I'm consolidating into these dishes to
Yeah.
actually get under the mark, but also give a presentation that's palatable for people who are not
100%.
of the culture.
That was a difficult thing because time is probably the most important ingredient to a lot of African food. As you know, it takes a minute. There's some cool things that some people don't typically see or know about Top Chef. So you get, as you are competing, they give you 10 ingredients to bring from home. So I was bringing a lot of those like pre-made sort of things to sort of help me kickstart. But I was very strategic. I didn't show the entire repertoire of African food and West African food specifically, but I made sure that like the flavor profiles fit the specific challenge, as best as I could, because sometimes you have 30 minutes, sometimes you have 20 minutes to cook, and you can't make something, with depth and flavor and, that intensely, at least in that short amount of time. But sometimes they give me 3 hours to cook, and then I can sort of develop a little bit more from there. So I was very strategic about which, dishes I decided to choose and cook with. And I think I did all right.
Okay. So let me ask you now, after you talked about like the snowball effect into where you are now, what has been the biggest challenges of like balancing your chef life as well as your TV presence?
To be continued. The biggest challenge, there's, but so many hours in the daytime. It is what it is. I think, going into everything, yes, it is a challenge, but it's very objective to me. Like I think about it. If you work at Staples, you might get a paper cut. Like that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is.
So you bartend, you might break your nail.
You might break a nail. If you work in the kitchen, you might get burned or cut yourself or whatever the case is. Like these are just occupational hazards that come with the territory. And I'm way too blessed to be thinking about like the negative side of having to juggle TV and having a restaurant. Like just saying that out loud is a blessing. You know what I mean? So like whatever residual sort of things as far as travel is concerned and, having time, I have an amazing support system of family that can help me sort of like be two places at once, so to speak. But other than that, like it's just a management team and an assistant helps as well. But I'm blessed to just have these things. So if the occupational hazard of having a TV show, hosting a TV show and having a restaurant is just having a little bit of time for myself, then so be it. Then it is what it is. Yeah.
I love that because I feel like you just said the sum of heavy as the head that wears the crown.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like just trying to figure out how to actually hold the crown up and continue going. But now we're sitting in one of the spaces, like we just said. We're in Elmina.
Big facts.
You're 4 months into opening your restaurant. Congratulations to you, Chef.
Thank you.
And you just said you just kind of take it with a grain of salt of balancing both.
Yeah.
But what is Elmina? Like, what is the inspiration behind the name and the culinary culture in this restaurant?
Definitely. Elmina is a town in Ghana. It's a very humble town. It's a blue-collar town. It's a fisherman town. And it's one of my favorite places to go and like refuge and put my phone on do not disturb and kind of just zone out a little bit. So whenever I go back home, I try to visit, outside of Kumasi, where my family's from, in Accra, the capital city. I try to go to different parts, and I just fell in love with the space. But then more than that, it means the mine, the treasure, the gold mine. And, I thought that was such a beautiful sort of definitive, sort of explanation about the people, the music, the clothing, the food, obviously, the culture. I think there's so much wealth and, all the things that we do. It also has, a lot of people know it for rather the slave castle. And I think I wanted to sort of combat that idea. And, when I explain to people, they oftentimes don't even know that it's actually a place that people live. Who have, who have joy and enjoy life and, are doing everyday things like anywhere else, like in DC or New York or where in London, whatever. And people aren't, they're not sad by living in LA.
There.
You know what I mean? They're not sad being there. So I really wanted to celebrate that as much as possible. And the restaurant embodies that. You know, we have different rooms in the building, sort of delegated to different commodities, things that bring wealth to West Africa, to Ghana or Africa specifically. Right now, we're sitting in the Indigo Room, and the inspiration for that is the Atlantic Ocean, again, where a lot of the seafood that we eat comes from. There's the tobacco and cotton and sugarcane room here. So there's a lot of intentionality behind the physical space. But then when you enter in, you're sort of transformed because you hear African music. You know, you hear music from New York as well, like where I'm from.
Yeah.
But you hear music from the '60s, high life and hip life and fella, and all the way up to like Burna and Wiz and Thames, and I like that atmosphere. And then aside from that, the art is specifically African. The people that work here are specifically African.
I'm going to add that in. I'm a friendly neighborhood bartender.
That's it. Shout out to Lily, and the food obviously is that as well. So we're trying to do something that is a little bit different than, a lot of the restaurants. But then, what I love about DC too, and it's slowly, I'm realizing it's becoming the culinary African mecca of the world. There's so many different restaurants in DC, African restaurants specifically in DC, I think per capita more than anywhere else. And I think that's just so dope, especially being like a transient city, a city of obviously a lot of people coming in and out and business. You have a lot of these like opportunities to, celebrate food from this continent. So shout out to all the amazing, the continent, Swahili Village, Dogon, you have Marcus, you have obviously Elmina. There's so many amazing places that are doing our food justice. And then you think about the Ethiopia, like the East African, like the Dukums of the world, and like African food is very prevalent here. And I absolutely love that. Yeah.
And that's what I find so interesting, because like DC's originally Chocolate City, and Chocolate City can be a variety of things: Caribbean, Black American, African. But it's like throughout the time, of course, when things elevate financially, you will see natural gentrification happening in cities. But it's like to continuously put back the staple of what we are and where we're from, just by simply just putting African restaurants throughout the city, kind of like really reinforces the history of DC, the Chocolate City.
100%.
Yeah, so it's like really cool to see. Like I said, that's exactly why I came to work here. Like 100%, I always try to find Black spaces I could be a part of and help grow.
Yeah.
I just always was like, okay, if I could do this, I love to bartend. I like to make, I like to create, just like you said. So it's just like, when it comes to either making food or drinks, especially because our drink menu is extensive, guys. We're over here sous vide plantain. We doing stuff you ain't never seen. But it's like, okay, while we're doing that on the back end, how do we actually incorporate it on the front end to actually be the faces of people, like the vibe, the ambiance? And like you said, the music here bang. Like, I always have to remind myself, like, stop singing. Like, the guest is gonna be like, girl, shut up. And oftentimes, it's actually just cool being in the spaces. Like, actually, even being around you, coming in and actually seeing so many guests be like in awe. Like, some people just have like generic experience, but it's so cool to see people come in and be like, oh my God, I watched him in this show and this show. I'm like, oh my God, you got a whole repertoire. And they're like, oh my God, is she there? Can I say hi? Can you tell her to take a picture with me? And I'm like, hold on, I got you. Just give me a second.
How often does that happen for you?
It happens all the time, Chef. That's what I told you. If somebody is a little salty, I'm like, hold on, I got something for you.
That's like your that's a secret weapon? Oh, man. That's crazy.
I was like, hold on, I got something for you. You want a spot? Give me a second. Hey, Chef, you got a free second? You be looking at me like, hold on, Lily, what you need? I need you to do that thing.
What's up, man? Say what up. He's so silly.
But people have a great experience, especially with like people that they watch. Like you just said, you watched Top Chef since season 4.
Yeah.
So many people have been watching it since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So to see someone that they've had actually on the show, they've watched, they actually rooted for, and to show something as prevalent as African cuisine, I feel like just seeing that moment being brought to life, I'm like, I don't watch cooking shows, so I was like a little out of the loop. But now everybody started like empowering me. Like,
go on.
Let me see what this is about. So it was just really cool, kind of like seeing that and just kind of understanding. Okay, now you're a chef, you're an owner. How is it now getting pulled from LA to DC, going back to New York, actually launching your Ghana to the World book, and how cuisine actually tells a story.
Yeah.
So what story are you trying to tell here?
I think this food, it's a biased answer, but I think this food is some of the best food and the most delicious food in the entire planet. There's so much depth, and that comes from time, that comes from, you know, the very unique ingredients and the combinations of familiar ingredients that we have. And it's just fun. I think the best way to tell the story is through this tasting menu that we have, you know, specifically crafted to kind of choose your own adventure. You know, there's 4 courses. Each course has at least 4 options that you can choose from. So, you know, you come here one time, you can have red and hamachi crudo with peri peri and these like African ingredients, to the jollof duck pot, to, you know, bofra. Like these are all like hyper West African dishes that have been, one thing I really take pride in is taking something that is just like as traditionally made as possible, you know, and then adding something to it that's a little bit more contemporary, you know. So the jollof rice, you know, aside from the fact that we're using blenders and ovens, this is the way like my grandmother's grandmother would have made that recipe. But now we're adding duck. It's like, that's different, you know. And that, you know, the buffalo is exactly that, made as traditionally as you can imagine. But then we're adding, you know, a Milo ice cream and, you know, different things to it as well. So I love that sort of pulling from the past, but then also being influenced with stuff that I've been, you know, seeing and experiencing through my travels, as you mentioned, and different, you know, spaces in the culinary world. So that's been fun for me. I love that sort of the middle point in the Venn diagram of traditional and more modern, and right in the center is like this restaurant. And I think it's a dope space to be in. Again, it's not even just in the food; it's in the music. It's how we, you know, give our hospitality when the guests come in. It's a kwaba. It's welcome. Wow. Yeah,
you know, somebody tested me on that yesterday, right?
Oh, for real?
They was like, "You don't know." They were like, "What? You don't know anything?" I said, "I know a kwaba." They were like, "You know what? I'm gonna tell you."
Yeah. I was like, and that's a good start. It's welcome. You know what I mean? Like welcome home. And you know, whether you know Tree and the, you know, languages in Ghana, or you don't, like, you've heard this before, and it's cool to see even people who are not from the continent directly. Like we have hosts, you know, from the Caribbean islands, you know, from Central America, who are saying akwaba.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's amazing to see different people from different backgrounds share into that culture and you know, give that hospitality that we can give here.
And that's the actual like best part about it, I would particularly say, because like you just said, going through the restaurant and actually getting the feel of everything. Like, I fell in love with certain dishes. Like I say, I'm African myself. We even went on a debate because I was just like, Ivorian food is better. And you're like, let's see it. I'm like, no.
We know the truth, though.
Hold up. We fight back. He still has yet to put atake on the menu. I'm waiting, but we're going to leave that alone. We're going to leave it alone for now. But now that you're in this space, like, I would say, what are going to be the things that you're looking forward to in Elmina as you're growing in this restaurant space, as well as growing in your TV personality space?
What I'm looking forward to in Elmina, I have lofty goals for this place. You know, I see this being a staple restaurant, not only in DC, but that celebrates African food and culture. Uh, One thing I love about everyone's sort of experience is it's not monolithic. Like my African walk is not your African walk,
Yeah.
and it's not. But we have similarities. Like
Yeah.
we have that African mom. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure those. Your mom does the same things that my mom did, and all that. And I love that representation of like individuality, but then also that communal experience of bringing everybody in, and everybody kind of knows like when you throw on like certain music, whether you're
Everybody
from
jam.
Nigeria, whether you're from Ivory Coast, whether you're from Ghana, or even if you visited, you've heard this song and
Before, yeah.
exactly, you bump it. So I have that goal to be very communal and be a space where, number one, my employees feel comfortable, feel loved, feel heard, and respected. It's not always perfect, but that's definitely something I strive to. And then my idea is when it starts with the staff, then the guests feel that immediately, because the staff is, they're in mode, they're relaxed, they're chilled, they have that common goal in mind, and then they're giving the best service to our guests. And then far beyond it, the TV and everything else, I didn't know. I didn't go to school for like journalism or like hosting or anything like that. So to me, as blessed as I am, it's also the cherry on top. Like I'm comfortable in the kitchen.
Oh.
Like that's my spot. If God forbid it all stops tomorrow, I won't be too bad. Yeah, I won't be too sad. Like I have my home here. So, but my goal there, now that I'm in this space and I'm realizing like how fun and how good I'm becoming, is just to keep, that positive atmosphere, a place where other chefs like to be around. The show that I host, Walk Our Kitchen, what's fun for me is now we're in the third season. We just shot. It's just like different chefs like, man, this is so fun. I want to come on. Like people want to be on it. And I like to give that sort of like cool atmosphere, that same atmosphere that I provide here in the restaurant. So it always starts with just being, a good person. And I try to do that with intentionality every single day.
And I love that. Just even going off of what you said, like the restaurant and growing anything has its challenges. So what challenges have you felt you have been presented with now, going from like the chef working in New York and some of the places that you've been to all around the world, from now being a restaurant owner itself, like transitioning?
The food is the easiest part. The food doesn't talk back.
Really do.
The food, but I think the biggest challenge is dealing with an array of personalities. There's about 40 people that I essentially manage now.
Yeah.
And that is a lot, like my phone goes off all the time. And I want to make sure, even though it's 40 people, I want to make sure that when I'm talking to Lily or to Shirley or to Chef Wale, that they always feel like a one-on-one connection with me. And I hope I do a good job with that. But the overall challenge, I think, is just dealing with people with different backgrounds and different demographics and different orientations, and understanding how to give the same message, but in a different tone, in a different, cadence to certain people. Because talking to a millennial is not talking to a Gen Zer, and talking to someone from like Africa is not. It's different from talking to someone who is from Ecuador or whatever the case is. There's number one, respect. Like always come through with respect. I think no matter where you are, where you come from, again, orientation, background, the common language is respect.
Yeah.
So when you have that, then it helps sort of break the ice, so to speak, and level the playing ground, or the playing field rather. So that to me is the biggest challenge, and really sort of my temperament and how it is that I manage people, because that in itself, like I have a goal, I want to be able to effectively communicate that goal to people, and then have my management give that to my staff, and then the staff give that to the guest. So that's I'm here almost every day trying to do that. I'm here during the pre-shifts. I'm hearing everyone's concerns. I'm always asking, especially management, but how can I make your job easier? How can I make your job better? you know, and again, it just comes with the territory. There's a lot of things that I'm dealing with, and I have help to handle. When it comes to this space specifically, like I sleep here. I can be here. Like I'm here all the time. So just making sure that people feel they'll never 100% love this space the way that I do, but I want them to at least do the best that they can to really like give the best type of service, make somebody's day. Because sometimes people come from like Pittsburgh, people come from Texas, people come from like far out of town just to have a night here. Like that means the world to me. That I can't even tell you like that. I get emotional thinking about that when people really travel California, legit, like, yo, I'm driving back to Connecticut tonight. I'm flying back to Texas tonight. That just came here. Like, that is incredible to me.
Where were the ladies from yesterday? Ohio, right?
Ohio, yeah. People from like, Pittsburgh, and, day trips to come. And that to me is just, it is the most humbling and heartwarming thing that people are like really taking their time to do that. So like the least that I can do is make sure your experience here is as best as possible. We're providing, everything that we can, and we're doing it exceptionally.
And I do appreciate you saying that, because I, for one, could say, I think you're doing a great job, Chef.
Oh, shucks.
I think you're doing a great job, honestly, because I feel like, just kind of seeing the platform, just seeing where, like, either I, for myself, want to be and want to scale myself. I always watch people who are one step ahead of me. I do it on purpose. Like I said, like you said, intentionality. Where I choose to work, I do with intention. How I choose to move, I do with intention. And it's because, like, I like what somebody represents. Okay, I have no problem going to be their employee. Do I know this person personally? No, but you can go find out.
Yeah.
And I feel like just going through that experience, like even with you, it's like, okay, Chef is a good person. He's such a good guy. Like, even when I asked you, like, hey, can you do my podcast? Like, I have a podcast. I support Black creators all over the DMV. And you're like, yeah, sure, when? Like I said, it took us a second to get the episode together.
Yeah, I deserve that.
But I love, like, just coming into the space and being able to, like you just said, have that one-on-one conversation with an employee. Like, I don't know what it's like managing 40 people. I've never managed 40 people. But to actually see the growth, okay, so these are the challenges that could arise. Okay, this is the way you could handle it.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the things that I personally see. Let me at least give that to Chef. Let me pass it over. Like little things like that, I feel like it's what's bringing, again, like you just said, that reinforce of community and culture back together into this space.
Yeah.
And just kind of like putting that stamp in like DC.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like, hey, we Chocolate City and we being chocolate. Like, come on through, come taste it. Because I've had so many people, and I feel like it's one of the best experiences where they're like, as soon as they sit down at the bar, they're like, yeah, I've been to Ghana. Let me know something. They're like, yeah, I had killer whale at the street.
That's some trophy. Is that their voice too?
I feel like people, when they come into this space, what I like love to see, and this is why I kind of even wanted to do the podcast episode here, is the fact that people are excited to tell people, or to even tell me, that they've been to Ghana.
Yeah.
They're like, I've touched the places that we're eating. And it's just like, I love that, just having that conversation. Okay, what was it like for you? I've never been to Ghana. So you're putting me on. Yeah. So what was it like for you? And they're like, oh, yeah, I had this, I had that. And I'm like, and they're like, well, this is not exactly the same. And I always say this, we have an interpretation of Ghanaian dishes. This is a fusion. This is Chef reimagined.
Sure.
Like, so you won't get something exactly the same.
Sure.
If you're coming here to compare, you're missing out on the whole experience.
Exactly.
You're missing out on the whole experience. It's literally just to take something that that can be familiar to you, and then just elevate it with a twist in somebody else's mind.
There's no doubt. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
And I just love explaining that to people, because they're like, okay. And
now
I'm like,
get it.
Now they get it. And I feel like they feel more comfortable with trying things and like, okay, exploring, like you just said. Like some people be like, why jollof got duck? And I love your answer, because I want to.
Because I want it.
It's really that simple, because I want to. And now that you're here, what would be like your 5-year mark? And like, in 5 years, if I had to look ahead, what is my goals for me?
Wow.
What is my goal for my brand? And what is the goals for my restaurant group? Because I'm gonna say group.
Oh, amen. For me, um, ooh, I want to just I want to be a better version of what I'm doing right now. You know, I think that's my number one goal. You know, both in family, spiritually, physically. Like I just want to be the best version of my 5 year later self, I guess. And the goal for the restaurant specifically is to have this be a staple again, and I think we're getting there. I think we're making those strides. You know, hopefully have another one or two. You know, Elmina's somewhere else or a different sort of hybrid of it. Um, and then for the brand, um, I think just being able to talk about this food and share my likes, and there's other things that I love as well. You know, storytelling and health advocacy, public health. I'd love to start a nonprofit that's revolving around food. I think that's something that's tugging on me, and when I have the time to do it, I want to be able to take some real earnest efforts and bring people together and help me achieve that. Um, what else? I I never said this out loud. It's family. Like I want to go to school for theology. I think that'd be fun. I think, yeah, I got a couple of goals. Some things I want to achieve. So I think that'd be like the best version of myself in this restaurant, and as selfish as possible. The accolades that I think this place deserves. I think we can get there. Um, if we can rack up a couple of those, that'd be amazing as well.
Yeah, we coming for these awards.
So,
but now, in what you just said, how is your financial strategy and actually projecting to those places?
ooh, save money. Yeah, I'm a good saver. I'm frugal. I don't be spending a lot of cash unless it's on something meaningful. So yeah, saving money. And the way I've always I've very much had an entrepreneurial sort of mindset around my life and work and career, and sort of parlaying one thing into the next and moving that into the next, into the next, into the next. So when I came back from London, I started a business, a private dining in DC. Excuse me, in New York, and I saved the money that I had to buy equipment. An ice cream machine, blenders, all this like cooking equipment, stuff that you would see in a restaurant, but I would have it in my apartment, in my home. And then I use that essentially to cater for events and cater for different people, and the clientele got bigger. The events started from like smaller milestones like birthdays to bigger milestones like weddings and anniversaries and graduations, and now I'm doing it for bigger things and bigger parties. And I took that money, I built another business, and used that money um, to build this space. So I'm blessed to be able to sort of have this entire space now. With it's under a group, but there's no other investors, there's no other people here. That's a testament just to hard work. So I take it personal when glass breaks, or like when what I mean, the scratch is there, because I'm like, oh, yeah, it took a minute. It's cash, facts. So it took a minute to get all this, but it's also cool that this is an investment, and then ultimately pass it on to my daughter as well. So I joke around often, like we all work for my daughter, but we kind of do. This is all in her name, like all of this. So to have her, we have a painting of her right there. She is the CEO of this restaurant. But it's cool because, I can have her at a young age come in and see, how the business is ran. She's in the kitchen, she's serving. You might see her, from time to time. And I love the fact that she knows that, whenever she wants it or ever she wants it, it's a quick just scratch of Eric and just put Lennox at the arm and it's hers. Like that's cool.
And I love that because, like I said, like you just said, we all work for Lennox. So she tell me go shake some drinks. I'll be on my way. But I like that, and how you get into the mindset of like creating that generational wealth for not only yourself but for your child. So how do you even know, like now? Did you have any mentors to help guide you through that financial space? And like, what are like some key points, if you had any, like that they have shared with you about advancing into something like restaurant ownership and like business ownership in general?
There are mentors that I have, that I've sort of gained in different points of my life. I think the biggest mentor that I have is just how I need to govern myself, and I'll bring it back to spirituality. A good man leaves inheritance for his children's children. It says in the Bible. So like, it's my duty to make sure that my child is set, as best as possible. And I want to be able to like successfully, take care of what my daughter's needs and wants would be. And along the way, I've been able to meet chefs like Marcus Samuelson, chefs like Alex Guarnaschelli, business people, like Jimmy Drummond, who helped design the space, who have helped me, in their plights and sort of steered me to directions that like, hey, you should probably think about this, you should probably do that. And I think a good mentor lets you know like what the pros and cons are, but doesn't tell you what to do. And I've been able to be led by those type of people. And it's really just life experiences. Like, I'm still figuring this out. I don't want to feel like, I don't want to make it sound like I have it all figured out. And I know exactly what buttons to pull. I make mistakes all the time. I tell my staff, specifically management, to poke holes in my ideas, and really fortify, the things that I'm thinking of, because I don't have all the answers. I don't have, all the right things to do, but I'm making the best decisions at this specific time that I think I can do for myself. Yeah.
And I appreciate that you're saying that, because I feel like that comes with a lot of things, especially when it comes for like someone like me. I work in the financial services space as well as working here. So it's like that drill of saving, because I've been doing my podcast for about a little over like 4 years now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And I literally have been telling myself, like, for years, how did I get all the equipment? Save.
Facts.
Like, how do we do everything? Like, literally, that's how I even got into bartending, because it was just like, okay, what I do in my day job, save, and then after that, now I can use money for bartending or money for this to actually advance my entrepreneurial spaces.
That's great, yeah.
So it's just like strategy. Try to figure out the best way to kind of maneuver in the world that you're given, especially with this inflation. Especially like, and the funniest part is, I am the worst person when you talk about like frugal, saving money. I can save, but I like stuff.
We all do. Yeah, we all do.
I like little things. So it's just like that balance of, no, you can't do this. You have a bigger goal.
Sure.
Okay, how can you actually bring that bigger goal into the platform to get people to see the hard work that you've been doing over years? So my thing to you is, if you had one advice to give to chefs in the same kind of story and spaces as you.
This is the easiest question, I think. It's just study your craft. It's not even just a chef. It's anybody. If you are a painter, know your canvases, know your brushes, know the different sizes, know the colors, know the watercolors, know the quality of paint. If you're a photographer, know your apertures and your ISOs, and how to get light in the photo in the right way, and how to manage and manipulate light. If you are a librarian, know the Dewey Decimal System. If you are A chef understand, temperatures, medium and medium well and well done, and how to create a sauce and how to, emulsify. Like, you have to know your craft like the back of your hand. That's the only way to do it. And that's the 10,000 hours. That's the proverbial wood chopping, however you want to throwing a stone, however you want to analogize it. You got to know your craft. And when you do, and you put in those hours and you do it enough and you master it, there's a book by Robert F. Greene called Mastery. And it's like the steps, literally the steps that you take to become a master, and then sort of do it all over again. And it's, putting in hours, getting an apprenticeship, learning from somebody else, and then, going out in the world and putting yourself on the line, putting your art out there. So if you're an artist, again, I'll go back to painting, how you like these arts and your brushes and your canvases and your paint colors as well as you can. And then you create, and then you give it to the world, and you step aside. Like, it's up to the world to decide whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, you expose yourself, but then people will tell you oh, I love this. This could be better, whatever. And you use that constructively to get better. So I think putting in those hours, specifically as a chef, as you asked me, is, understanding your craft and not just going straight to Instagram or social media and, posting something and you're not doing it right. I don't want to sound like somebody's, get off my lawn type of thing, but it matters. You have to understand your craft like the back of your hand, the details. And then from there, you can play jazz. You can really color outside the lines. You could put in your culture, where you're from, what inspires you, into that craft. And then you're doing something that nobody's doing. So with me, understanding the 1, 2, 3s and the basics, the fundamentals of cooking, through, trial and error, through culinary school, through, working in under different chefs, through challenging myself and putting my skills online, essentially in front of the world on national television. And then now I'm doing it here. I can add in my culture, and that's what makes this place so unique. So if you are a musician, you know how to put together the beats, the tempos, the song structure, the melody, the harmony, and then you put in your culture inside of it. Now you're hitting, now you're your burner, and now you're whiz, now you're, temp, whatever. You're doing something very, very unique. But everyone, all the greats, know their craft like the back of their hand. And that's what I would, if you have those fundamentals, you're going to succeed. And you have to be consistent too. Don't give up. Shit gets hard, and it's hard for a reason. But you do it and you persevere, and something, I promise you, good will come from it. It has to. That's just the law of the world. Yeah, it's the law of the world. It's the way it's the formula of the world. Faith, 100%. If you believe in something higher than you, then dive into that and cast your burdens on that as well. But when you are diligent and you work hard and you're consistent and you study, it's going to happen. You just got to be consistent. It's going to happen.
What do they say? What is that quote? What? Don't do it until you get it right. Keep doing it until you can't get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
you do it over and over again. I think that's, you go, I don't know if you've ever been to a sushi restaurant or omakase. You watch the chefs, they literally are cutting the same fish the same way 1,000,000 times a night.
I used to actually work at a sushi restaurant.
See, yeah. You watch them do that repetitive motion over and over and over and over again. And it's how, do you not get bored of that? But me, I find that beautiful. I find it, I'm yo, somebody can really be diligent and do the same thing with repetition, so much so that they can close their eyes and do it. Michael Jordan has a really cool moment. You can go on YouTube and find it, where he shot a free throw in the middle of an intense basketball game with his eyes closed. Yeah. Because he's shot it so many times. It's just muscle memory for him at that point. That to me is just greatness. Yeah, it is. That's so fire to me. Yeah. So when you do these things over and over and over and over again, nobody can mess with you. Nobody. Okay. So now that you said that, what advice financially can you give to an entrepreneur? What did they say? This is not financial advice. Talk to your financial advisor. I would say, save your money, believe in yourself, believe in something, believe in someone else, and keep the dry powder, because when it's something, when you need it, you're gonna want it. So don't, it's cool to spend money on things, and things are nice, holiday time, you want to buy something for yourself or a family or whatever, you want to splurge here and there, but when you save money, you're always ready for the next thing, the next wave, because there's something always going to come, whether it's an investment opportunity, whether it's buying stocks, whether it's, putting your money and, saving it to school or whatever, like there's always something coming up that can advance your wealth. But the best way to get ready for that is by saving and having that sort of dry powder, so to speak, in the tuck. So when you are ready to pounce on that opportunity, you have it, and you be like, "Yo, I'm ready," and it's not a burden for you to sort of get it together. You can just go, and you feel good about it.
I love that, y'all heard it here. Let the people know where they can find you, where they can get in contact with you,
well, you can't
where they
me.
can.
I'm joking. The contact where you can find me, I'm mostly here in Elmina, 2208 14th Street, here in Washington, D.C., Northwest. What else? Food Network. I host Alex vs. America and Wild Card Kitchen. I host a show called Cultural Eats that you can see in different airports in America. My books, Gone Into the World and Sankofa, are out where books are sold. And if you didn't find me there, then I'm probably asleep.
And you can move him out the way because Lily is your favorite part.
Facts. You can find Lily here as well. But I'll be here. I'll be chilling. You know what I mean? Most likely, if you come to DC and you come to Elmina, 8 times out of 10, you're gonna find me here. So
yeah, somebody asked me that yesterday too. They were like, "Is he always here? Is he here often?" I'm like, "Yeah." Most of the time, like if a guest asks, I'm like, "No, you probably just missed him. Like he just probably left."
Just left.
Yeah, like he's always here. So y'all, if you guys ever have any questions, want to come through the tasting menu, try that
first.
Yeah, exactly. Try that first. You want to go through the 4 courses of Ghana? You already know where to find us. If you want good drinks, you already know where to find me. But y'all, thank you so much. This is Go About Your Business podcast, and thank you so much.
I had fun. I appreciate you. That was great.
Thank you, Chef.
We are in the kitchen of Elmina, and I'm going to show everyone how we do our hamachi dish.
All right.
This is one of the first options of first course.
Yep.
How many hamachis do you sell?
A bunch, honestly. I say that between the tuna tartare and this one, they go fast. But I love the hamachi crudo. Like, I don't like raw anything.
Yeah.
But this is good.
It's good. It's good. It's hamachi we get from Hawaii, and then we pair it with peri peri and passion fruit, which is a really interesting mix. So we have beautiful hamachi like that.
So let me ask you, out of all of your dishes here, what is your personal favorite dish?
Ooh, so we have a couple of different things from Ghanaian ingredients specifically. We have a little bit of corn nuts, some shaved radish, a little bit of salt, and then this is that beautiful passion fruit peri peri mix that we have here. Adding a little bit of serrano to that, and then some garnish with cilantro as well. So we'll get all of that exposed, and I'm gonna show you how to build it. So,
all right.
You first take that passion fruit peri peri and kind of just dress the hamachi like that.
I was about to say a healthy drizzle.
A good drizzle, right? Add some salt, some crunchy sea salt here. And then we build. So texture is super important. You want things to kind of have different pops and flavor profiles, but also different points that you can, come back to that's not super mundane. So we put a little bit of serrano for not only crunch, but then heat as well.
So it's like a sweet and spicy flavor.
Sweet and spicy, absolutely, for sure. Speaking of crunch, we have our corn nuts that we add here. I like to do one on each, maybe another extra right here. And then adding a little bit more crunch. And then we have this like garnished or radish that we shave. It gives a beautiful color, but then also some like a little bitter note to it as well, which I think balances really well with the sweetness of the peri peri passion fruit. We put that right there and right there. And then last but not least, we have some cilantro for some freshness, but then also it gives a little bit of garnish to the dish. And it's really that simple. We serve this again as a first course for our guests. Really nice sort of intro to our 4-course dinner. Really beautiful, very eye-catching, a beautiful way to sort of start your journey and the progression of the tasting menu. And it's mad good, so yeah.
Period. So what is your inspiration behind this dish?
So similar to how I was explaining about using very traditional ingredients and sort of like the traditional, modern, contemporary, and then right in the middle is I think where we are at Elmina, blend of traditional ingredients and indigenous ingredients with a little bit more of a modern take. So a machi that you can get almost anywhere and a crudo that you can get almost anywhere, but with a very specific West African flavor profile to it.
Okay, y'all gotta see this. You'll see this.
You silly.
So now it's time for us to dig in.
Yes, please.
So let's see.
Thank you, thank you.
There we go.
Ladies first.
Always.
Get a little bit of everything in there.
This will never not be good. It's so good. Like, I feel like this is one of my biggest recommendations for anybody sitting at the bar. If you want light, chill, soft bites, 100%
Yeah.
the hamachi crudo. It got, like you just said, that crunch, the sweet, the salty, the pepper.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's there. It's yummy.
He ate with this one.
You silly.
He ate with this one.
I love this dish.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's a really good dish.
Thank you.
There we go. Y'all, we have it here. What they say? Cooking with Adjepong. Cooking with Adjepong. Guys, thank you. Of course, we are Go About Your Business podcast. And now we're on to the drink. Chef, thank you for joining me on my side of Elmina. So I'm going to make a simple yet very important drink to the African culture. This is going to be a hibiscus margarita. If you guys know anything about hibiscus, in Ghana, what do they call it? Sobolo?
Sobolo, Bissap, Zobolo, Sorrel, for our friends in the Caribbean islands. Yeah, of course.
So we're doing a play off of hibiscus and bee pollen. So this is how I do it. That's how things get done on my side. You know, just do a nice little cute lip. All right. So you got to do a perfect mix, right? 2 ounces, here you go, of hibiscus. There we go. You take this, you got to make sure you clean it off. You do the 1 ounce of lime. I'm doing light ounces right now, guys, just so we're not using everything. So then you get the agave, and this is your perfect mix of a drink, guys. All my bartenders out there, you know you gotta stack it high with the ice. Margaritas are high ice quick shakes. Yeah, I'm teaching y'all something. Y'all ain't know that. Close it. Take hard, take fast. There you are. Get the clean pour. And y'all, Look at magic happen.
Youngsters.
And guys, here you have it. Elmina Gold Coast Margarita.
Delish.
Chef, you do the honors.
Oh my goodness. It looks so yummy. Love it. Get hibiscus, a little bit of agave, the sweetness, that lime, and then this bee pollen. Very unique. Can't get that anywhere else. 10 out of 10. Well done. Love it.
See, y'all, where else do you know that your owner comes and joins your podcast? Elmina's the place to be, guys.
Come through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Really, I
you,
appreciate
Chef.
it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
That was fun.